and gentlemen, welcome to the meeting. Can I welcome members, invited guests and the public? Don't think we have any, but I'm sure there's lots watching on the webcast, so welcome. So today is a meeting of the Audit Panel. Apologies for absence. Could I turn to Marvish?
Yes, so apologies have been received from Assembly Member Desai, for whom Assembly Member Arnold is substituting, and apologies have been received from Assembly Member Duval, for whom Assembly Member McCartney is substituting, and apologies have also been received from Assembly Member Whittle.
Thank you. Well done. Now then, can we note the declarations of interest, and does any member have any other declarations to make?
Noted.
Noted. Thank you very much. Minutes of the meeting. Can we agree the minutes of the audit panel held on the 13th of January 2020? Are they agreed?
You weren't there.
You weren't there? Well, I was. Yes, they're wonderful. Thank
We'll
you.
be advised by you.
Good. Now we have the item number 4, the summary list of action. Can we note the report?
Noted.
Noted.
Thank you. Hopefully get a bit more interesting now. Item number 5. We now move on to our main item of business today, which is to review the internal audit reports. Martin Clark, not to be with us much longer.
I think I've got a hand straight over to Mr. David Esling.
Well, that was very slick. Very slick. Yes, good.
Okay.
So,
Right, thank you, Chair. So the first one here is Appendix Item 1A. This was our review of the estate's management, health and safety. I see Alan's here today to take any questions. This received an adequate assurance from ourselves. And as I say, it was looking at the health and safety across the GLA estates. 2 recommendations which are listed on page 34. Those 2, they received priority 3, but we felt that they needed to be captured here. The first was that Avison Young are requested to provide a summary of all site inspections carried out to a monthly contract meeting. This was found, as I say, as part of the review. The second one was the results of the independent risk assessment of Avison Young Health and Safety Management System is reported to the GLA annually. I'm willing to take any questions on either of those 2 or anything else in the report, but Alan's here as well to
thank you. Anybody have any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Are you going to do the next one?
So I'll move over to the next one. So this was our review of London ambassadors. Again, this received adequate assurance, and page 50 details the recommendations, of which there were 2 made as part of this review. These were priority 2. Who's here to take?
Do we have any
Any
questions on
comments
this
or
one?
any
I have one.
questions?
Yeah.
We'll take the questions back if you
Yeah, and
can't
I'll
answer them.
help as well.
Yeah.
So-
Was it this one?
Mine was on the last, on the action plan, 9.8. It says about the insurance
Yeah.
and some not proving they have insurance, which leads to be that the people they're driving around are not insured.
They tend to have volunteers.
Insurance.
That's a good point.
And isn't there a better system that we can do rather than leaving it to the individuals?
This is stuff that has been picked up with individuals from time to time, and they explain they have to have insurance. And you will see later on the agenda under expenses and benefits, the expenses, we did have to give a waiver that we would reimburse someone's cost, even though we didn't have the right travel insurance. So it is a requirement, and it is communicated. It's just got to always checking, do we get 100% compliance? But it's been very clear that these people do, it's business. You've got to make sure your car insurance is covered for this activity.
Presumably they have to then prove to you or prove to whoever that they have it.
Yes.
So I don't see how they can
Not have it.
be given bookings if they haven't provided that insurance.
But I might need to come back, but sometimes we don't know the individuals who have been rostered to do this, and therefore they make the first claim.
That's the
Oh,
what
you
normally
mean-
happens, is that they have a policy, they don't realise they have to provide their policy. As far as the individual is concerned, they have a car insurance policy, it's their car, they're driving to the places they drive to all the time.
Do we not make that clear then?
Yes.
When
I think
someone
we do when they
volunteers, do we not say, you know,
Yeah.
part of the volunteering means you'll have to, you may well need to use your car, and if you need to use your car, you need to have the correct
Yeah.
policy in place.
I think
And unfortunately, some people
Just don't read it.
don't read it, and therefore, when they make the claim, we ask to see the insurance.
Mm.
That's,
Are they-
it's a bit after the event,
Yeah.
to make sure we do pick up these issues.
Okay, so they're not carrying other people in the back of their vehicles. It's just for their own use.
It's their own use.
Okay, that's
And
relieves
in
my
the-
worry then.
And yes, so it's the risk is on them if there was an accident, if their insurance is not covering them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to protect them by
Yeah,
making
okay,
sure
that's
they,
fine. Yeah,
they've got the right
Yeah.
insurance.
okay. No, I had read it as they were perhaps driving people round,
No.
so they don't know. Oh, yeah.
No, I read it as the individual.
Mm.
It was just, it seems to me, I understand what you're saying, but it just seems still a bit of slackness, because where would the default land if, for just discussing this, something extraordinary or tragic happened? That person would not have the required car insurance.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm.
It does rest on the individual.
Mm.
Right.
That's why we give advice.
It's quite worrying actually,
It is.
because this is a sample size of 6. So it's not, but you know, you've like dipped into a very small pool and come out with a problem. Maybe we should do more sampling.
I don't think that many of our volunteers use their cars a lot. So I think most of our volunteers come into London to do things that are not, they wouldn't get to by car.
Yeah.
It's
But
unusual.
yeah.
This is
Should we not
definitely-
send them all a reminder then?
Sorry?
Should we not send them all a reminder?
We will,
Because
yeah,
if out
definitely.
of 6 you've got 1, that's quite a high percentage.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think out of 6, even if there were people doing it, you'd miss them out of that small
Yeah,
sample.
but as Emma said, I don't think the population is very big, so I think it's probably a large sample, a significant sample of
Yeah.
a very small number of claims, but it's something we've got to keep reminded. and
Yeah, so it's
we will
worth
pick
just
them up.
sending everybody a preemptive reminder, isn't it? So can we have that as an action then?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
I mean, I had never thought that you needed to look at that clause in your insurance. It made me make a note to look into mine. Because you go off doing and taking people,
Mm.
like, you know, I drop off a lady from church if I'm there with a car sometimes. That's voluntary
That's
action,
your
isn't
private
it?
thing. Yes,
It's a private thing. So that would be,
that would be covered, yeah.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
because it's commercial.
That's right, yeah, it's specific. Well, you normally describe it as, they do describe it as business use, and it's best, and actually if anyone is unsure, it's always best to speak to your insurance company,
Yeah.
explain the situation, so at least you can cover yourself.
This is
as well.
business use.
But this is business, business use, because you're receiving business mileage as part payment for that.
Oh.
Different insurance companies have different policies.
Yeah,
so
yes.
you've got
Yeah,
individual-
yeah,
It's always best.
Some cover it standard, some don't.
Yeah. Okay. That was
Oh, good. Right, so the next item, David, you're going to do that as well.
So,
Follow review. And-
Yes, so this was the follow-up of the preparations for the mayoral and assembly elections that are due in May. Looking at the 2 recommendations which were made as part of that review, and as I say, this was the follow-up. As you can see on page 56, one of those, 8.7, was partly implemented, and 8.8 is still yet to be implemented. Again, willing to take any questions here, but I don't know if Martin's taking it on behalf of.
Alex was
Is due to be here.
And I think he's in the elections meeting at the moment, so but I'm happy to see if I can help, if not take it back.
Okay, Assemblyman McCartney, you have a
Yeah.
question.
Obviously, one of the recommendations around contingency arrangements, and particularly with the e-count contractors.
So that is,
So I'm asking, you know, what is the follow-up on that? And then secondly, obviously, it becomes even more important when we think about the coronavirus at the moment, and perhaps you could just let us know what contingency plans are being looked at the moment, and is the GLA talking to those third parties, such as the returning officers, venues, and so forth, if we have to shift anything?
That is correct. I know Mary was having a call with all the chief executives. I think it was Friday evening on this. I don't know the details of the conversation or the contingency planning, but yes, it's got this heightened importance. And I suppose just for the avoidance of doubt, the advice at present from government is to continue to fully prepare to hold the elections.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're changing scenario though, aren't we? So, yeah.
Well, no, my question is quite specific to 3.3 on page 54. I read that and then felt concerned. So if somebody can explain that I shouldn't have any concerns, that would be helpful.
Yeah, this is the recommendation as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
is that
that's
what
exactly-
we've just dealt with?
That's what we found. That, you know, with the contingency arrangements as it states here, to cover that, were not available at the time of audit. Was hoping that, and if Alex is currently in a meeting anyway, but I don't know if he'll turn up later in the meeting, which maybe we could possibly address just those points to him.
I'll arrange for him to give a response to the question on where we are,
Yeah.
what we're doing on the contingency arrangements,
Yeah.
as
Because
soon
I
as
don't
possible
think
after this meeting.
it's something this audit committee can just leave without
No.
No,
a proper documented response.
so we'll get
Because
you
we
a,
are the responsible body.
absolutely. So I will now press him to give you a written response
I'm
in
assuming
very short order.
the contingency is manual counting, and then that's a whole, that's going to take a few days. Venues,
Very
staffing,
large process.
yeah.
That's probably the ultimate
And
contingency,
under the current climate, probably not an ideal scenario either, because it would increase our requirements for more people to be working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but the auditors just want it documented.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't want a
No.
final solution.
Just see that it's being looked into, isn't it?
I'm with you.
And I'm sure it is.
It is.
I'm sure it is.
I'm with the auditor.
But we'll get
on
Alex
this
to come
one.
back super quickly.
Good.
But we've agreed a revised deadline of end of March, so I think Alex is working to that deadline, but I agree with the
We'll get
detail
a
of what
response.
that
We'll,
looks
aim,
like.
we'll,
would be helpful
we'll
to know.
respond before the end of March.
Lovely. Thank you
Because
very
there are
much.
not many contractors, are there? People that have these
No.
machines
No.
anyway, it's very limited
No.
Very
fields.
limited, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on then to the internal audit progress report?
Shall I just give you a quick overview of where we are with that? So
What
the
office
report
was on?
just summarises those 3 reviews that we've discussed and highlights that we've also done some advisory work this quarter on the adult education budget and looking at gifts and hospitality. I would also draw attention to the draft plan on page 66 and 67. So this is the plan for next year that we've discussed with the senior management team. You'll see is cross-reference to the risk register, which is the next item on the agenda, and it will enable us to give our annual opinion on how effective the governance and internal control arrangements are across the GLA. You'll see there's a particular focus around significant areas such as housing and land, which will come as no surprise to you due to the extent of expenditure in that area. We'll also do our regular reviews of key financial systems, some ICT specialist reviews, follow up on all those audits that we've conducted this year. And you'll see that we've got some specific reviews around gifts and hospitality to look at the new procedures that are being put in place to provide assurance to you through the year. And we will continually look at that and ensure that it is addressing the risks and come back to you if we need to amend it any time during the year.
Okay, thank you. Should we move on?
Yeah, Chair, it's 72 and I would just pick this up because this is my area of focus. Delivery of the adult education budget functions, and the 4th bullet point down there you talked about the Skills for London's Innovation Fund was launched, yeah. Applications have been reviewed by the Skills Funding System Policy, and a report will be taken to the Mayor at the AEB Mayoral Board in February 2020. Do you as auditors get those sort of reports?
Which page are we on, sorry, Jeanette? Is that part?
72.
Oh, so is that part of the risk report?
Yes.
So that's the
Yes.
next item.
Yeah.
So, okay. We're not part of the actual reporting process itself, though we have advised on the control framework for looking at the budgets, but in fact, we couldn't be part of the process, but we would just independently look to make sure the reports are being written in the way that they should and that they're going to the right people.
Right, right. No, it was just a question then. How does it then, on future, fall into your remit? So would you be looking at it to see if it's meeting its milestones on what, an annual basis?
So we'd advised like this year, and we do have some aspects in the plan for next year. What we'll be looking at is making sure that the control framework is there so that you can monitor the milestones that they've been set, that they're monitored and that they are reported effectively. That would be our
That would be, no, that's encouraging.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
pleasure. So, can we note the internal audit reports? Yes, thank you. Corporate risk register, which we sort of been discussing. Can we take that as read now then? Anyone else have any issues on that?
What page is that?
Page 69 to 90, you were just talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's probably just pointed out. This report was completed 3 weeks ago. At that stage, we got the initial flagging of the issue of COVID-19. Obviously, that will continue to develop, and the plans around that. And I'm sure if you scored it now, it's a slightly different score, but it's work in progress.
Okay. But does everyone want to sort of bring us up to date on COVID-19 as to where we are with that?
The latest discussion I've been involved in was that we are continuing to follow Public Health England's advice. We will keep monitoring that situation as they are very closely, and considering how we then need to consider what actions we would take going forwards, both for our public-facing activity and for internal-facing activity for staff. So,
because we've got
watch
two
this
hats,
space.
haven't we, really? We've got the staff and we've got the...
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Niran Mathard, the Exec Director, is taking a lead on that for Mary, and we are looking at both of those angles very closely.
So who was that you said?
Niran Mathard, the Executive Director for Strategy and Communications.
Okay, thank you. Right, we okay with that, the members?
Yeah.
Note that report.
Yeah, something.
So then we have the monitoring of expenses and taxable benefits. Do members have any comments on the expenses and taxable benefits of the mayor-elected members of and senior staff?
I have to admit I haven't read it.
Oh, right. I haven't any this time. You reading it now? Good. So we note that then, please. Then we have the register of gifts and hospitality. We've been doing all that, Jan, haven't
Where, have I?
we? Yeah,
What did I declare?
something, got something. What was it?
Oh, a tea set.
You said, yeah.
A
And artwork. Did you get some artwork as well or something?
You're just jealous.
Oh, well, I'm not. I'm not good.
What was that cartoon we got?
It's
Good luck, good, party robo,
a limited edition.
Yes,
Yeah, chosen people.
indeed.
You weren't on the list.
So, can we note the register of gifts and hospitality for the mayor and the assembly members, please? Good.
You can come and look
Members
at
of staff?
It's in my office. You can come and look
I
at
will.
it.
I'll come and have a look in the office, yes. Register of gifts and hospitality for members of staff. We happy with that?
Yeah.
Note that report. Marvellous. Now, number 10, annual report of the monitoring officer regarding complaints about elected members.
Yeah,
Now, I have a question on this, actually.
okay.
Go ahead.
Which page?
Here it is. Here it is. Now,
Pages.
this report is obviously lifted from the electronic version. Because if we look at page 127, that well-known R2 road in my patch, you will see that under Appendix 1, under the first heading, the full details of the complaint are published here. But I've pressed it and it just doesn't work.
Which bit are you looking at?
Okay.
Apologies. If there's a footnote at the bottom which has got the links on it, but I'm very happy to send you an email.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, I can look at the thing. No, it wasn't really that. What I thought the report lacked was it tells us that you've had a report and it names the members. I'm not naming them now. 3 very extinguished members. And what you say is you refer to the breach of the codes that, and you measure it against the breaches, although I suspect it might be helpful if for the public you could actually say what those codes are.
Yes.
You know, paragraph 3(1) of the code of conduct. I'm not asking you to do that either now, but you know, for future reference, perhaps you could be a bit more explicit. But you know, you give your findings. So you say that, for instance, on this particular one, that this particular member, there had been a breach of one of the 3 codes, but the other 2 codes you didn't feel there had been a breach. But what you haven't said, which I think really we're all desperate to know, is what the outcome is, what actions you're taking as a result. So you've said that someone's, or in this case 3 people have breached or have been complained about. You've measured whether or not they've breached the different codes that apply. You've given the answer as to whether or not they've breached the relevant codes that apply, but then you haven't said what you've done.
The findings for each of those in full are all in the public domain. So those links take you to all that information, and there's a long statement for each of them about all of the detail regarding each of those complaints.
But I think a nice little synopsis on the printed document would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that next time, no problem.
that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Good. So can we note those reports?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And then, what do we have now? Yes. Date of the next meeting. Now, the date I've got in front of me here is Friday the 15th of May 2020.
To be ratified.
Which needs to be ratified once we
by the full
reform.
By the full assembly.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Reach.
And then, do we have any other business? I don't.
No. Well chaired.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. For now,
Thank you.
call the meeting.
GLA, Committee Room 5, South.